Hey everyone, Mango7Roll here. How we doing today? Welcome to another episode of Epic 7, and it is Balance Patch Day. I just woke up. We have a Path of Exile League Lodge starting, and I forgot about this. So, I'm a little groggy, so bear with me. We're gonna read some words hopefully together, and I'm pretty excited. As always, I have no idea who's on here yet. I haven't read. I do know that the sliding bar up here, the scroll bar, is pretty big. I'm hoping obviously for Araminta. I'm hoping for units I really enjoy that I think need a boost. I'm hoping for a bunch of RGBs as well. I'm hoping for just a lot of stuff. You know, it would be real nice. As for ML5s, I mean, Solitaria is a pretty obvious choice, which means they're not going to touch her, and they'll probably change something like Operator Sigrid or Isaria again. So let's get into this and see. I don't think there will be any nerfs. They seem to be very much against that. So we have 9 heroes and 3 artifacts. So I'm guessing like 5 heroes, 6, 7, 5 heroes and 2 spec changes. They wouldn't do that again, would they? Here we go. Okay. I was wrong. Solitaria of the So and Designer Lilibet, 2 ML5s. It's nuts that they do so many ML5s when so many RGBs need changing. That said, I have both of these for once, so that makes me really excited. I can say right now that I've been trying to do Arena lately, and it's just god awful. Like, it's just absolutely abysmal. It's not fun. Everybody debuffs you with 5,000 debuffs. Everybody silences you, stuns you, decreases hit chance, all those things. They buff things that you can't dispel. It's just a horrible experience. It's not fun at all. So having somebody like Designer Lilibet that can actually handle those things right would be fantastic. So I'm pretty excited for that. Chloe, interesting choice. So Chloe's one of those characters I really think should get a buff, but I really think it's not what we need. I think Chloe is a character with a specific set of skills that is PvE focused with her magic nail. I really think she should really focus on that and take advantage of that for current and future PvE content, so that people can aspire to build her to have like a unit they can bring for all sorts of stuff like that. So I would love to see her perform much better in Wyvern. I think that would be fantastic. I feel like something with a nail is just insane. But I don't see how she works in PvE. So I guess we'll see here. Like, she's got no way to protect herself. She's got no revive. She doesn't dodge stuff. She doesn't counterattack for 13 billion damage, you know? Then we have Celine. And from what I understand, Celine wasn't in a bad spot, right? Like, she's still useful for people who want to use her. She's got really specific places where she can be fantastic in stuff like Guild War. She's probably useful in RTA, I think. And then Lilibet, which is interesting. What a weird set of units they chose to do. Lilibet's interesting, right? I guess we'll see what they do to that. I guess we'll see. Like, they have to give her so much protection to make her useful. And you can't boost people up anymore, right? Like, you can't Oxlots kill somebody anymore, because there's somebody with 127,000 billion base speed that's ahead of your Oxlots that's just going to stop that whole thing. We then have Sinful Angelica, which I'm pretty excited for. I know she's a lot of people's favorite units, and people use her a lot in Guild War. I don't really, but I know a lot of people do. So I'm curious to see what she does. And then we're getting Inos. I mean, come on, really? These are your 3 units? Inos, Lucy, and Aiden? I mean, I have Inos 6-starred and built up because I think she's cool. So maybe this is cool. Lucy is like what? Why not buff Purgus? Why not buff? I'm trying not to complain. I'm just vocally saying what I think the game needs. Why not buff Guider Aether? Why not buff Surin for PvE somehow. Why not buff who else? I'm not even sure. Buff people that we use, you know? Like, the thing is, Inos, Lucy, Aiden, to an extent Chloe, like, they always seem to buff people that are either already used in good, like Sinful Angelica, or they buff characters that aren't used at all to a point where they're still not used at all, which is what I'm trying to get at here. Anyway, let's get into this. Cradle of Life, Little Queen's Huge Crown. Don't really entirely know what these two do. I'll have to go check it out. I forget. And El's Fist, same thing. So maybe these are good things. They've actually done a really good job at balancing artifacts lately. Okay, so Solitaria of the Snow. Please be good. I love her design. I love her voice actor, Anyatko. I love everything about it. So attacks the enemy with a staff. Wait, no, she doesn't use magic anymore. She just bops them with a 75% chance to dispel one buff. I believe that goes up to 100%, right? And when the caster is granted Daydream, activates Whoosh. Ha! As an extra attack, Whoosh. Ha! Attacks all enemies with mana with a 25% chance to stun for 1 turn. Okay. That's pretty sweet. So does this dispel and stun afterwards? Or is it exclusive to the other? It'd have to be both at once, right? Either way, we do note that the change attack does not trigger a dual attack isn't in here anymore. I don't know how important that is, but I'm pretty interested to see how that goes. I think her skill 1 was always interesting. The problem is right now, sorry, I don't mean to be negative with these. I just like to talk about like real world scenarios, right? So the problem with her skill 1 right now is she uses her skill 1. I haven't read the rest of it, so maybe this is fixed. And Violet dodges it and then punches her in the face for 12,000 damage. And then Rem is immune and then counters your whole team for 12,000 damage. And then Belian has immunity, gets 15%ed, and then counterattacks your whole team for 12,000 damage, you know? So that's kind of the big problem with their skill 1, right? There's just so many situations where units can't be hit, or they dodge, or they have immunity, or they counterattack. I guess counterattack is the big thing, right? Like that kind of shuts down a skill 1. And the big thing with it is it's a skill 1, so it forces you to use that ability, right? Like you don't have the option to not use your skill 1 and not proc all of those things, right? So damage dealt increased as well, which is okay, I guess. Okay, I want to go home. Decreases the amount of focus gained by the enemy by 100%. At the start of the turn has a 100% chance to grant Daydream. At the end of the turn has a 100% chance to grant Stealth. Okay, so both of those are good things, obviously. When the caster is buffed, so they took out the when the caster is buffed, they also gave her Stealth. So those are both good things. They both help her for sure. But I haven't seen anything that makes this good yet, because this is still not worth using. So Boom Starlight Fall decreases the enemy's buff durations. It also grants a barrier to the caster for 2 turns. Yeah, that's not enough. This isn't going to do anything, right? Like, this is legit just not going to do anything at all, right? Like, legit 0. Like, grants a barrier to the caster for 2 turns. Barrier strength proportionate to the caster's max HP. So weird. Although Solitaria of the Snow was initially designed to be able to deliver attacks, this was not actually the case due to her lack of ability to prevent... With these adjustments, after attacking with a single attack, Solitaria of the Snow's Pew 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 will deliver an additional attack to all enemies, depending on Daydream. Wait, so they am I missing something here? They specifically state delivering attack to all enemies was the problem because of counterattacks and stealth. And then with these adjustments after attacking, implying she won't get counterattacked. So does the extra attack not get counterattacked there? Interesting. And yeah, you do get to maintain your stealth after, which is definitely helpful. Also, I want to go home will be adjusted so that the hero can more easily take the benefits of stealth and daydream. Barrier instead generating synergy. Yeah, it does generate synergy. That is true. So like theoretically, these are good changes, but I don't see how it's actually going to work. Anyway, let's take a look at designer a little bit. I'm not as familiar with her abilities, honestly, and fighting spirit mechanics, and how they add up in battle. So let's hope we get this right here. So emergency stitching is when an enemy turns ends, gains 5 fighting spirit for each debuff. Cool. Starts the battle with 50. When the caster's fighting spirit is full at the end of somebody's turn, consume. Okay, and then it changes to starts the battle with 50. That's the same. When an enemy turns ends, gains 10 fighting spirit for each debuff inflicted on an ally. So that is double the fighting spirit there. When the caster's turn, and increases defense for 1 turn. Okay, that's really good because obviously scaling with defense and stuff is fantastic. And fighting spirit is full. Okay, so they took off the trigger as well. So when her fighting spirit is full, that's it. That's time to go. That's go time for Lilibet. So that's fantastic change, I think. Model disqualification is decrease buff durations, gets on stage, yeah. So it changes to increasing the skill cooldown by 1 turn, increasing CR of all allies except for the caster by 15%. Okay, so that's pretty good too. The CR boost is just great, of course, but I think this is fantastic. I always found when I was using designer Lilibet, I had to be like Giga Brain to be able to understand if I was going to get a boost and like dispels, and like half the time she just like didn't do anything and took her turn, and I'm like, what just happened, you know? So hopefully this helps maintain that, not maintain it, but help smooth that process out, right? So that's really cool. Designer Lilibet will be adjusted to be more useful in more battle situations. First, she will gain more fighting spirit. The effects of emergency stitching when the caster's fighting spirit is full, such as dispelling debuffs from the caster and increasing CR, will take effect at the end of an enemy's turn. Oh yeah, defense buff too. That's really fantastic as well, which does, like, when she boosts up, make her model disqualification a lot better, right? And even if you dispel her from Pierre, like you get hit by Pierre and get unable to be buffed, you're gonna remove that and then increase your defense. So that's really cool. I think this is a great change, and I think this is really gonna help me out, and I'm pretty excited to try her out now. Now, Chloe. Okay. Hiccups. Okay, Magic Bolt. Attacks the enemy, inflicting Magic Nail before increasing combat readiness of the caster by 50%. Okay, and damage dealt increase. That's also great too. So that's a pretty good PvE change, I believe. And then Hyper Strike soars into the air and attacks the enemy, stunning for 1 turn. Of course. Damage dealt decreased. Yeah, it did too much damage. Cooldown 3 turns. Chloe is a hero capable of inflicting magic nails. Using her skill Magic Bolt will increase her CR by 50%. And Hyper Strike will have a 1 turn shorter skill cooldown. Okay. And then her exclusive equipment is changed from Attack of the Caster when using Magic Bolt. See, this is just so weird. Like, who decided this? Who decided this was enough for Chloe, you know? That said, I mean, she does get significantly better for Wyvern with this, right? So, you know, there's that. So, option 1 will increase the attack of the caster for 2 turns. Furthermore, as Magic Bolt will deal more damage and Heavy Strike will have a shorter cooldown, Hyper Strike and its Soul Burn will deal slightly reduced skill damage. Overall, Hyper Strike... Wait. As Magic Bolt and Heavy Strike will have a shorter cooldown. Excuse me? What's Heavy Strike do again? That's her skill 1, right? Sorry, let me read her skill 1 here. And see. Not a warrior. Ba-dum-bum-ba. Really? Oh, there she is. So Heavy Strike hammers the enemy. Damage dealt increases when the enemy is inflicted with Magic Nail. Am I missing something? Magic Bolt, yes. Magic Bolt, yes. Hyper Strike. Magic Bolt will deal more damage, and Heavy Strike will have a shorter skill cooldown? I'm confused. I'm missing this. Maybe they're trying to say Hyper Strike here? Well, that's interesting. I don't really understand that one. Maybe I'm missing something. So they say Hyper Strike and its Soul Burn will do blah, blah, blah. Overall, with the improved skill cycles, Chloe is expected to deal more damage to enemies throughout the battle. And there will be a change to our exclusive equipment. Players will be able to change the option for this equipment for 2 weeks after adjustment. Cool. These improvements, we hope to see Chloe have more contribution. Yeah. So this is the type of change I like, right? Like making her better for PvE. It's okay to do PvE characters. And this will help her slightly. I'm just not sure if it puts her ahead of other characters, especially considering the need for Molagora on a 5-star versus a 3-star like Mui or Alexa, right? And then we have Celine. So this is a long video. I'm sorry. I'm mumbling a lot. Intuition here. So Intuition attacks after an enemy... After an enemy uses a non-attack skill, dispels all debuffs from the caster and attacks a random enemy with blink. That's really cool. Increases combat readiness of the caster. Okay, that's really cool too. Those are pretty great. And Thunderclap also repeatedly slashes, blah, blah, blah. Grants a barrier to the caster, barrier strength proportionate to her attack as well, which is fantastic. And healing decreased. So this is pretty cool. I feel like this is an overall buff to her, obviously. Just dispelling all debuffs from the caster is great. Also, combat readiness is great. Also, the barrier proportionate to her attack is great, which is pretty cool here. I don't really understand healing decrease. I feel like that's not something that's worth nerfing, right? Interesting. So Celine will be improved to be more specialized in fighting enemies that use non-attack skills. The dispelling debuff will be shifted from Thunderclap to Intuition, and Blink will be less likely to be distributed or disturbed. Blink also will increase CR of the caster, aiding to get another chance to quickly use Thunderclap once again. Yeah, that's pretty cool. These are good changes. I don't use Celine, so I'm not sure how this is going to go, but someone let me know in the comments how this is going to interact, right? Because I think about like AOL or something like that, and that's obviously going to help with dispelling debuffs. I think about Clilius, and I think it's going to be great for dispelling debuffs at the same time. But also, after Clilius goes, she's going to like defense buff the whole team, right? So it's going to be hard to do damage. But I'm kind of interested to see how this works. Because previously a lot of the power from Celine came from popping somebody after they use Oxlots, right? So kind of interested to see how this works. Okay, now Lilibet. I would like for her to be good. So brutally cuts the enemy with a 55% chance each, so up for 5%? Oh, let's read the Awaken. 3 bleeding effects instead of 4? So that's more consistent, right? Or... is that more consistent? I feel like that's less consistent. Anyway, let's keep reading. When the target is bleeding after, increases the combat readiness of a caster by 50%. Okay, that's pretty fantastic. That's a big CR boost, but you do have to land bleeding. And if you don't, you're like, well, that sucks. And Soul Cutter here decreases the caster's skill cooldown by 1 turn. If the enemy is defeated. Yeah, I don't really like this. So specifically with her, you have a couple things, right? Number 1, it looks like she loses damage. Maybe they'll cover that there. But also, you are now RNGing your whole kit to be suboptimal, right? Like, if things go great, you get a CR boost. And if things don't go great, you die, you know? And then with your Soul Cutter, if things go great, you get increased caster skill cooldown and extinction. If things don't go great, you die. So that's kind of interesting choice how to do this. So Lilibet is a hero who uses Soul Cutter, is capable of inflicting extinction with increased hit chance. Her skill Snip Snip will be adjusted so that her strategic strength can be more efficient. Conditions on damage increase will be removed. Oh, so it's just going to straight up damage dealt increase instead of like conditional, right? So it's still going to have the damage by the looks of it. The maximum number of bleeding effects it can inflict at a time will be decreased by 1. Soul Cutter will inflict extinction and decrease the caster skill cooldown, possibly raising Lilibet's contribution. Yeah, possibly. So I don't really like this change either. I think this might be okay, but it doesn't help guarantee the kill. It doesn't help protect her. It doesn't help a lot of things, but I'll obviously try it out and let me know in the comments again what you think. Oh, there's more. So exclusive equipment dispels 2 debuffs from the caster before the skill effect. Okay, now that's good, right? Like that's something that's really going to help when you're using Snip Snip, which is great, right? So that's good. Okay, and Sinful Angelica here whips up a vortex of darkness and loathing, dispelling 1 debuff. Okay, that's real good. Dispelling debuffs is fantastic. Before granting immortality, yep. And then, oh, that's all it does. Okay, so that's good. That's just a straight buff, right? We take those. And Inos here. So Inos was interesting, especially where her skill 3 targeted all enemies and dealt damage, and then she got counterattacked and died, right? That was a big problem with her. Also, she didn't push enough healing, and there's a bunch of stuff, right? So now with her soul burn here, increase effect chance to 100% and decrease the defense of the target for 2 turns. That's not bad, especially for a 10 cost soul burn. So one thing I do like to mention, I really think when they are doing soul burns like this, they need to make it ignore effect resistance as well. Because otherwise you're just going to use your soul burn and nothing's going to happen. I don't think that's a situation I'm okay with, and I really would like it if they made it so it ignores ER. Because a lot of times soul burns are what you use to plan a safe strategy, like a getaway, something consistent, but soul burns like this just make it so stuff doesn't happen. Really good example of this is Araminta, where she skill 3s and you burn it and it costs like 20 flippin' souls, and all it does is ignores ER, right? I think it's all it does right now. And of course, she never gets a buff. Of course, it's all it does. And her stun has like a 50% chance to stun, so you soul burn for 20 souls, make it ignore ER, and it doesn't do anything. And you're just like, you know? So Firepower Cube does lower the cooldown. Interesting. So this is actually a pretty big loss to her. I have used her in the past, and like I said, one of the big problems with Inos, I mean there's lots, but one of the big problems is she doesn't heal enough. So having a 10 amount soul burn to heal more was fantastic. So I really wish they maybe made this heal more or put more healing into her passive, because I think without that you're taking one problem and making another. But this soul burn is pretty sweet. That's cool. And Lucy, dear Lord. So I have tried to cleave with Lucy before. I know she's got potential. Give her more damage. That's all Lucy wants. So Paper Whirlwind decreases cooldown by 3 turns, or down to 3 turns. And Paper Barrier recovers health of all allies and grants a barrier for 2 turns. That's good. Amount recovered and barrier strength increases to her max HP. So these are good changes. But they're obviously not going to do anything to Lucy, right? And they don't help my cleave with her, you know? Oh, yeah, this is cool. She'll be more competent in PvE modes such as Katie's. I never even thought about using her in Katie's, so maybe that is a good place to use her. Maybe they tested her like this and she's a great healer in Katie's because of that. Cool. So Aiden, I don't even know what Aiden does, honestly. I haven't looked at her before. So Aiden here, weakness shared, cannot be dispelled. That's obviously a good thing. And okay, that's it. So that's a change and a half. Cool. So Cradle of Life has a 30% chance to inflict a random debuff, decrease attack, decrease hit chance, poison, and bleeding. Now it goes to 80%. The debuff's 2 turns, and it can burn as well. So that's a pretty big change, right? But I don't think these changes are worth using over any other artifact, especially with warriors, right? Like, warriors have so many insane options to use. It's kind of weird for this. Like, what warriors use single attacks a lot, right? Let's actually check here. Obviously, we've got Chloe, so I mean, okay. 80% chance to attack, decrease hit chance, burning. You have an 80% chance to land a debuff on Wyvern for 2 turns. That's actually nothing to scoff at, but maybe a damage one would be better. We also have A Ravi and like not a chance on Luna, not a chance on A Ravi. With Crimson Seed, it's too hard to beat. Sigrid, same thing. You always want the Joker. Cowrick is something. You have the 2 abilities here, but of course he doesn't build effectiveness, and Warhorn is pretty great, and there's other options. Kawana, same thing. We've got damage debuffs instead. Cermia, not a chance. Yeah, I'm not really seeing too many people that can use it, except for Chloe. Chloe actually might be able to use that for a Wyvern thing to help bring more debuffs, especially since one of the problems I found with Chloe, I think, if I remember correctly, was her skill 1 would often be what's used on the one turn you really needs a debuff, right? Like that initial turn on Wyvern before they get the first attack that can hit another target. So that would give you an 80% chance to land a debuff there, which is great. So a Little Queen's Huge Crown was a 30% chance, increased damage by 30% if the caster is granted with a barrier. Hiccup, sorry. So now it's a 16% damage with a single attack and increases the damage by another 16%. The enemy is granted barrier. So no actual power increase here, which is a problem because I don't know anybody who used this artifact. So people, I can't see using it still with that. I could be wrong here, but yeah. An Owl's Fist here as health decreases, attack speed increases up to 50%. Now it just base increases attack. Okay, so same thing here. I don't really see that used either. So interesting. So these are a lot of changes, but I'm not really super overall look good on paper. So people seem to be somewhat happy with it. Solitaria, wow, nice idea for making her AoE attack as an extra attack. Okay, so they were saying it right. So the extra attack can't get countered by the looks of it, which is fantastic. That's an amazing change for Solitaria. And if that's the case, I'm really happy with that. The ML Lilibet, let's actually just go through here. Let's not read other people's. Let's give you mine. Okay, so Solitaria of the Snow. With that change there, I'm actually pretty excited for this, right? The damage dealt doesn't do anything at all, but just not being able to be countered is fantastic. Also adding Dispel here too, which is great. The other thing too is consistency with her stealth is great, and also giving her a little bit of a barrier buff. So these are all good things, and I've definitely found situations where I've tried to use Solitaria and it wasn't enough. And maybe with these situations, it might be better because often you want to bring her against somebody like a Violet, right? And Violet can still counterattack, you know, and that's a problem. And with this, he won't really be able to. So that's actually pretty sweet. Designer Lilibet is another one I'm really excited to use. I think a bruiser like this is really good and something we might really need, especially with how many debuffs. Like you get, I don't know if a lot of people play Arena right now. Honestly, like a lot of people in my guild just haven't done Arena in a while because you can AFK in Champion and not attack and still stay in Champion, get all the rewards, and then just hit the NPCs. That's what I've been doing and a lot of people I know have been doing. But go try it out and try to win battles with a slower team that doesn't speed contest. And it's not fun. So maybe this will really help for teams like that. And it might even really help for faster teams as well, which is really interesting. I'm really excited to try her out. It was actually a pretty good buff as well here. We've got a more consistent person to use for Wyvern, and that's great. Celine, same thing. I think Celine has pretty good potential here. I'm not sure how much this is going to be used, but I'm really interested to see. A lot of people do really like Celine, so I'm really excited to see how they handle things. Lilibet, I was pretty not feeling great about Lilibet's. It doesn't look like it's going to do anything. Every time I've tried to use Lilibet, it just didn't work at all. Maybe I'm using it wrong. But I guess we'll see. There's got to be like specific scenarios where she's still good that I just haven't really wanted to gear her up for it. And then Sinful Angelica, just a straight dispel. That's great. Inos, Lucy, and Aiden all just kind of missed the mark. Lucy might actually be better. I'll test her out in the Hades dungeon to see if it's worth, but I can't really see Inos being used. And Aiden, it helps, but not there yet. Artifacts, which is weird. I think both of them, all three of them have missed the mark. They're obviously good buffs. Cradle of Life potentially might be something you want to use on your Chloe, but that's the only thing I can really see. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about these buffs in the comments below, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.